The Guardsman, a story from the world of the Banner Saga. Written and narrated by Noah DeMula. Original arrangements by Austin Wintory. Gudmundr saw his life as a long story of regrets and mistakes. The Bindle Guardsman found himself thinking of this as he chopped wood outside the gates of the town. The snow had fallen earlier, and the ground was gently covered in a powder that made the area of stumps around him almost tranquil. It was lonely, and Gudmundr almost liked it that way. He was out of reach of creating any more mistakes, for the moment at least. This did not mean he was out of reach of memory of them. He had been going to the woods for a long time now, and that meant passing many stumps, each group of stumps bearing another mistake, and each one being left behind to keep moving from the last. Chop. The sun had stopped moving. It should have gone and set hours ago, but for some reason it had stopped in the same place for the past 3 days. It was as if another legacy of the gods had been inflicted on them, and they had already been dead, and it just seemed to Gudmundr as yet another parting gift on their behalf. He didn't like the omen, but more so, he didn't like the trudging he had to do past the stumps in broad daylight, where he could easily see them, unlike when he came usually at night. Chop. The first patch he had passed was made near the time when he had first arrived to Bindle, the day he had spent the last of his silver. It had slowly chipped away, and then it had gone. Originally, he had arrived only with an axe on his belt and a pouch of silver in his hand, the silver of another man. Chop. In his youth, he had lived in a village called Brunthal, which was a stone-bricking town. The only things that happened there, other than rocks, was trouble. Brigands constantly came from raiding parties, and Gudmundr was taught as a young boy from a young age that to be prepared was the greatest advantage to face the day. The preparedness came in many different ways, like how to keep watch effectively, how to bolster a quick getaway, and of course, how to turn a tool into a weapon. Throughout his life, Gudmundr had the option of many weapons, but he always found himself coming back to the axe, as he imagined it was for that reason. Preparation did not always mean success, and as he grew into a young man, the hanging bitterness of life in the quarry town did not sit well with him. Why work only to see your efforts be burned or taken away, to lose fights due to unfair odds, and to see friends slain? All the sacrifice and nothing but a pile of rocks. Be prepared. Those words took new meaning. Be prepared for death. Be prepared to leave things behind. Be prepared that nothing lasts, and just to enjoy what is temporary. Silver is temporary. Chop, chop, crack. The cedar fell to the ground with a powerful clash. It would make a good palisade. As he hacked away at the more troublesome branches, he looked around yet again, whether it was checking the area or for self-torture. He saw more mistakes, both recent and past. From a close distance, the pines he had felled from his failure to quit drinking most nights. Slightly farther off had been the day he failed to notice a faulty beam in the mines when he used to inspect them, resulting in the death of a miner. And had the faint sun been where it was supposed to, he wouldn't have seen from far away the largest clearing he had made years and years ago. Half a mile away in front of him, he could see a large graveyard of stumps of old thick cedars, all now gone. Valgard, his proudest achievement and his greatest regret. Valgard's mother was a woman named Briva, a local tailor who had caught Gudmundr's eye when he had first come to Bindle. She was beautiful, and to Gudmundr she was redemption. A new start to leave behind the past of what he had been before coming to the city. He made a large effort to show her how capable he was of being a man fit for her. He worked hard, finding employment in the mines. He built a cottage near the marketplace to be closer to places she liked. And all at this vision that he could change, and that being with her could change it. On a night of the festival of the Frostberry, he had met and was bold enough to ask her to dance. As the night grew onward, and as the horns of drink replenished, their communication grew in intimacy. After the festival, the two became closer, and for a brief spark, Gudmundr knew happiness. The spark that started did not result in flame, however, and as weeks turned to months, Briva became more distant. "What is the matter?" he would ask, only for a brief smile to meet him, followed by reassurance that it was nothing. As the months passed, the distance between the two grew more, and her replies no longer contained smiles, and when she told him in his cottage that she was with child, there was no smile to accompany it. "What's wrong, woman? I asked you many a time, and you never answered me properly. Now you give me the news that we have a family, and you look as though the world is ending." I don't want to be part of your family, Gudmundr, she said. "What?" "It was a mistake." "A mistake?" "You can be warm, but only when you think of it. When you don't, it's like you're someone else, that there's another person just beneath the surface that you don't tell me about. You can't even tell me what you did before you came here. I don't know you, but you expect all of me." "And you tell me this now? After all this time you expected answers but never asked questions?" "Would you even tell me if I asked? Why do you leave in the middle of the night so often?" "What does it matter what I was? I am who I am now because of you. I would die for you, kill for you." Why do I feel like you already have? There was silence. I love you, Briva." Silence. It was a mistake, is what she had said. Gudmundr had finally hoisted the large timber onto his sled and started the long process of tugging it back to the town. After Valgard was born, Briva had left. After they had their fallout, she stayed away from him at all costs. But there was a tension of uneasiness, of violence in Gudmundr's eyes in those days that threatened and flamed, a nature that had been unearthed that he could not hide, a well of emotion that once was love had replaced with anger. He saw and watched hopelessly as he forced her away with his presence in the town as one action to avoid another. He should have been the one to leave, not her. Another mistake. One of many in the woods near Bindal. The morning smoke of chimneys was rising into the air as he emerged from the woods. The first tower man on watch had seen him coming out of the woods and signaled for the guard at the gate to open it for him. They knew that conversation was not appreciated at this time, and they did their work without exchange from him. The town of Bindal was a well-fortified, almost near enough capacity to be a small city. The mines thrived both from excavation in their renowned tunnels, and the roads connected the cities of men from the east to the west. It was quaint, and it was just large enough to not need acquaintance with everyone, but be still capable of such. Gudmundr moved the sled near the side of the wall and set it out of the way. After he found something to eat, he would go install it to replace an older one. As he walked to his cottage, he could see the villagers in a groggy state. Since the sun had stopped, not many had slept well, but life moved on as it had to. Affront of him, Gudmundr passed the Velka Zephyr and her younger mender Nichols. As he strained and turned his staff, Nichols, with great effort, was drawing lines in the air of some sort. The two were spellweavers, mysterious as they were powerful. Interestingly, other than the occasional and unexplained travels away, they had taken residence in Bindal over the Tower of Manahar, perhaps to keep watch of the ongoings of the world. Perhaps that was a good thing, for finding answers like why the sun had stopped. Not like that. You must treat it like a delicate thread, but bend it with power, like hot iron, scolded the Valka. I don't see what you mean. How do I do both? Replied Nichols. How do you do both? Gudmundr thought as Zephyr noticed him watching. How fares the walls? She asked. Over the past few years, the two had grown a respectable understanding of each other, to the point where she knew when he had left at night for the woods. Although he had never told her, it was clear that she could tell even why he went, and Gudmundr suspected that she had this understanding because of her own regrets. In some ways, it even felt like a friendship, although Gudmundr did not like to think of it that way. He replied in the same response he had always given to the same question she had always jokingly inquired. They can be better, he said, almost turning his expression to a faint smile. You seem to be making many repairs as of late, she said, as she gestured for Nichols to continue as they talked. Minor for so many years, and now, all of a sudden, an interesting change in career to Guardsman. It's been 3 months, and only now you mention it? Gudmundr replied in a gruffer tone. I didn't think you'd want to talk about it for a while. She was right, but Gudmundr did not want to acknowledge it. It's getting cold in those mines, and I need a change of scenery. Really? Yes, really. She looked at him for a moment, and then continued. From what Captain Einra says, it seems like you're taking to it very quickly. You work hard, you're sober on duty, and you spar with the young men, and can even best them more times than most. He calls you a rising star. I don't deserve the praise. He just doesn't train his men enough. They have potential, they're just idle for too long. Perhaps see if he can get some of the men to help you with your new addition today. You don't have to do all the work by yourself. They will just do a half-assed job of it. Besides, I'm new. Why would they listen? Because they know you. You have been here a long time, and even if you weren't a god after all this time, people still respect you. They shouldn't. Well, I disagree. There was a pause, and the wind whistled slightly in the air. As Gudmundr started to leave, she left one last comment, the most irritable yet soft-spoken exchange she had asked. What are you rebuilding right now? Gudmundr was about to grimace a remark when Nichols created a large popping sound from the thread he was weaving, and what seemed like a large spark jolted from the end of his staff. Both looked at him, as returning gazes from each other, and he responded with a guilty look, as though he had tried a maneuver not intended for the lesson, and had fallen short of its actual intention. He turned his face away and went back to drawing more simple patterns. I'm rebuilding the walls. What does it look like I do every day? Gudmundr said gruffly. You know that's not what I'm asking. Gudmundr opened his mouth to object, to tell her she had stepped too far, but instead, he sighed. This was not a probe for information out of curiosity. This was a question from a person who was genuinely concerned and wanting to help in some way. Something happened when I was gone. I went to Strand. It's complicated. Before a response, another disturbance came in the form of a bell, ringing terribly near the entrance of the first tower. A second, from the inner city tower, clanged to accompany it moments later. Gudmundr and Zephyr looked at each other with completely different objective faces than prior, and they all ran toward the gate. As they ran, Gudmundr saw his fellow guardsmen not on duty, opening their doors of their houses and rushing out half awake. some in their guard tunics, others in standard attire. Some were at their main post, fastening helmets, hoisting on chainmail, and others stringing bows and picking up bucklers. A large group of them were already upon the parapet, and Gudmundr ran up to meet them. At first, he thought he should have picked up a weapon at the armory, only to realize that he had already had an axe in his hands. He realized that he had never put his axe down since arriving to Bindal or from his time in the woods. This lack of immediate realization troubled him, but other matters were at hand. At the top, he saw the captain, who gave Gudmundr and Zephyr a concerned look. Near the front of the gate was a band of armed men, and a giant leading them, accompanied by a green, forked banner.